Basic appraisal procedures, page 16. Extent to which the property is identified. Consider this. You have been asked to appraise a physical segment of a property. In this case, a 5-acre portion of a 20-acre vacant parcel. USPAP allows for this, given there are no laws or regulations to the contrary. But what method will the 5 acres be identified? The answer depends on who is relying on the value opinion and for what purpose. Suppose the client in the appraisal is the property owner who just wants a general idea of what the 5 acres are worth, because he may give them as a gift to one of his children. His primary concern is that the value of these 5 acres is about the same as other 5-acre parcels he has given his other children, and he doesn't want a family uprising. No survey has been performed, yet an appraiser might conclude that a hand-drawn map supplied by the farmer and the use of extraordinary assumptions is sufficient to provide the farmer with a general idea. For this use and user, credible assignment results would likely be achieved. However, if the client is a lender whose use for the appraisal was to transact a new construction loan for the farmer's child to build a new house on the yet-to-be surveyed parcel, the extent to which the property is identified would be much more complex. In this case, the appraiser would most likely insist on examining a proposed survey and legal description, as well as supporting documentation stating the proposed survey has been approved by jurisdictional authorities to be portioned or split legally. Extent to which the property is inspected. Interior and exterior, drive-by, prior inspection, photographs, blueprints. What does the assignment call for? USPAP allows for anyone or a combination of these inspection methods. The answer, again, depends on intended users, intended use, relevant property characteristics, and of course, any laws or regulations being observed in the assignment. Unfortunately, there is no textbook answer for what extent of property inspection fits a particular property in a particular assignment. The assignment must rely on experience as a compass for determining the level of inspection appropriate for achieving credible assignment results. Obviously, the appraiser will have the most confidence in data relied on if it is gathered through a complete personal inspection of both the interior and exterior of a structure, as well as a full observation of the subject site. Keep in extra note, Fannie Mae writes adjustment within 6 months. Page 17. Mind, though the level of inspection is not appropriate or even possible in every assignment. Type and extent of data researched. It's impractical to think the same data research is applicable when the subject of an appraisal is an income-producing property or a proposed owner-occupied new construction, or in an assignment with the type of value being market value versus going concern value, or a fee simple interest as opposed to a partial interest. Each case requires collection and analysis of various and different types of data. The elements determined in property identification are critical to determining this. The physical characteristics of the property and the type and definition of value in context with the intended use of the appraisal lend great insight to the type and extent of data that needs to be researched. And of course, the research being considered here includes both general and specific data. We'll discuss data research later in this process. Type and extent of analysis applied. Here, the appraiser must consider what and how much analysis is necessary for credible assignment results. Decisions made here will affect the preliminary analysis, valuation methods applied, and reconciliation. A 20-year-old 2-unit income-producing dwelling being appraised for market value in a mortgage transaction would likely signal the need for income and expense analysis, zoning analysis, lease analysis, etc. However, a cost analysis may pale in relevancy in such an assignment. So many appraisers would not apply this development step in the process. A single-family dwelling limited to that use by zoning and deed restrictions would not likely require an analysis of probable use modifications unless some drastic change is forthcoming. For most assignments of single-family owner-occupied dwellings, the income approach would not typically be used. More discussion of the type and extent of analysis will be presented a little later. As a final thought, the scope of work rule gives broad latitude to the appraiser in forming the scope of work decision. However, it is also the appraiser's responsibility to determine that the scope of work performed will lead to credible assignment results. An appraiser must be able to support the scope of work decision. The scope of work must include the research and analysis necessary for credible results. Reliable and credible results require support from appropriate evidence and logic based on the intended use of the appraisal. Extra note: you can not something a parcel appraisal per Fannie Mae. After due diligence, information, estimate, and opinions verified where possible but cannot be. Important points. The scope of work determined by the appraiser is considered appropriate when it meets or exceeds the expectations of those who are regularly intended users, or what the appraiser's peers would do for the same or similar situation. Determining the appropriate scope of work is an ongoing process and can change during the assignment based on information and conditions learned by the appraiser, which can lead to reconsidering the scope of work. The scope of work an appraiser performs should not be limited by the client or intended use to the extent that credible results cannot be obtained or results are biased.